Aloha, this is Kim Ann Curtin with the Wall Street Coach, and this is all about the 5 psychological tips and tricks you want to be aware of if you're just starting out as a trader. It goes without saying that you want to do a lot of due diligence right out of the gate to make sure that the trading collective, tribe, teacher that you are choosing to work with is vetted, has evidence of their success, and is honest. Do a lot of homework about who that person is. That is just a little disclaimer because it's something I sometimes see traders when they're starting out not doing enough due diligence around. But down to the 5 things. Here we go. Comfort with failure. I would like to know, if you are starting out as a trader, what is your relationship like to failure? If you have a very hard time with it, if you take failure and loss personally, that is going to cost you significantly in your mental capital. So you have to ask yourself, as you're coming into a particular field where loss and failure is going to be your experience way more times than it's not, you have to be honest with yourself. Are you somebody who is okay and able to take loss in stride? And if you aren't, then you have to really question, is trading for you? Or you're going to have to be committed to doing the work on yourself to get comfortable with it. Look, we're all human beings. It means we're fallible. You are going to make mistakes. And as a beginner trader, you're going to make the biggest and the most mistakes of your trading career if you go the distance. So you have to ask yourself, do you get really ticked off if somebody grabs your parking spot in a parking lot? Do you get really ticked off when you lose a board game? If you find yourself being significantly triggered by failure or by loss, then you're going to have that so frequently as a trader that you really want to ask yourself, have I done some work around my relationship to failure? If you personalize it, you're going to have to get yourself unhooked from that. For each of these 5, I'm actually going to speak to a book that I'm going to strongly recommend you consider. And the book for this issue, Becoming Somebody Who's Comfortable and Tolerant of Failure, sees that is part of the journey. The book I want to recommend is a book by the Zanders called The Art of Possibility. That is an amazing book that allows us to actually step into a much bigger perspective when it comes to the relationship to ourselves. That's what this is all about. This is all about the psychological tips to succeed as a trader are completely dependent on you doing the work on yourself. If you are somebody who is not that self aware, you are going to find that these lessons are more costly and take longer for you to learn. So I invite you right from the listening to the beginning of this podcast to really start to ask yourself, how self-aware are you? Are you somebody that's done work on themselves? Have you worked with a therapist before? Have you worked with a coach? Have you read books about personal development? If none of those apply to you, then you really want to think about that now at the beginning of your journey, not later when you have serious capital on the line. So that is practice 1. Learning how to get comfortable with failure, because it's going to be a big part of the journey and you're not going to be able to be demoralized by it. You're going to have to pick yourself up and trade another day. And that is why it's so important to be sure you're somebody who can tolerate and get comfortable with that inevitable failure. Number 2, what is your relationship to uncertainty? I have met lots of beginner traders who think that in the beginning of them learning how to trade and to find their strategy, they have to be 100% certain. And actually, that kind of mindset is also going to cause you tremendous trouble, tremendous cost. That kind of rigid thinking is much more applicable to other places in the business world than as a trader. There are times when you can have a perfect strategy, where you can have all the discipline in the world, where you could be completely right in concept, and the market is going to go against you. And that is something that is so easy to personalize. If you aren't somebody who has a tolerance for uncertainty, you have to realize that every single day there's a chance for you to have all the boxes checked and for you to still potentially not get the trade. And there's times when you do everything wrong and you'll just get lucky and the trade will go your way. That kind of uncertainty is baked into the market. If you are not comfortable with uncertainty, you want to start to become comfortable with it. You're going to need to strengthen those ambiguity muscles so that you have one for the tolerance, for the ability to deal with that uncertainty that faces you multiple times a day, never mind countless times over a career as a trader. Even if you're part time, this still is pretty critical. And the book for that topic that I want to recommend to you is a book called Uncertainty: The Wisdom and Wonder of Being Unsure. And in that book, what you'll learn is that how often those who are incredibly certain have blind spots. And that's what I want you guys to take away from this conversation today. I want you to realize that uncertainty isn't something to be afraid of. Uncertainty means you're staying in a place of humility, you're staying in a place of curiosity. And that is a non negotiable as a trader. So be sure as you start your entire career as a trader, part time or full time, that you have found a way to get comfortable with uncertainty. It also is going to save you when the chips are down, when things are challenging. It is a powerful skill set. And that book called Uncertainty is going to help you open up your eyes to how powerful it actually is. Number 3 of the psychological tips to beginner traders is, what is your relationship to money look like? Have you done some due diligence around your relationship to money? When did you first learn about money? What was your parents' or your caretaker's relationship to money? The reason this is so important is because often I will see traders who have an invisible ceiling, a glass ceiling above their success because they have some unconscious, unresolved issues with money to begin with. I've seen this also not just based on the monetary background of a trader, but also what the position their parents were in. And I've seen this just straight up in coaching entrepreneurs and C suite executives. If you are coming from a blue collar background, if you're coming, well, watched your parents really have to put incredible physical effort into how they supported your family, into how they were able to get by. There's sometimes when you're coming from a blue collar background or a working class background, there can be shade, there can be judgment on those who don't make money that old fashioned way with elbow grease. So you have to do this work around your relationship to money to just see, do you have invisible stories about how people make money? If you have invisible stories that make you think that something is wrong with people who make money without putting elbow grease into something, then it could absolutely potentially sabotage you from success as a trader. There are times when we feel like our tribe won't have our back. I think this is a big challenge for every trader is it's hard for you guys to be able to talk about it. Who can you talk about? And I'll get into that in number 5. But part of what happens is if as a trader, you start to have success, you potentially may be afraid to share that success with the people around you because they won't be able to fully appreciate or understand it. And or they could get jealous and or they could get threatened. And or they could feel like like, who do you think you are, right? All of that is their stuff, but it affects you if you haven't done your work around money. I also want to recommend you consider a couple of books for that topic. The first book is a book called Money Lost and Found, and that is by Janine Roth. That is a powerful look at a woman who unfortunately had her money taken by Bernie Madoff. He stole her money. And what she speaks to in that book is that she had not reconciled her own relationship to money. She still had some hidden drivers around her experience with money. And what she realized is that her eyes were closed to asking certain questions when she invested her money with Madoff in the first place. And what she really does in that book is identify for all of us how we each could have a much more open, honest relationship to money, but we're going to have to take a hard look at it. Also, as a trader, whether you're part-time or full-time, for you to actually go to the top levels, you're going to need to have capital. You're going to need to be able to invest that capital, but you're also going to need to be able to be investing in your future. And the second book that I want to speak to is by Jared Dillian called No Worries. And what he says is that there's a lot of people who are two extremes of their relationship to money. On one hand, the relationship is a cheap, you know what, and the other one is a high roller. And yet, neither of those extremes are healthy for us. Ultimately, when we have a healthy relationship to money, we're not going to be consistently driven by it. That also is something I see that happens with a lot of traders is they start to kind of just have so much focus on having to make profit, having to make their P&L, having to have a green day that they wind up being consumed by that money as opposed to being the driver of that abundance in their life. So watch out for that too. Do your work before you start to trade. Number four is, when was the last time you checked your health? This might sound crazy, but I've seen huge impact on traders who have, especially for the men, low testosterone levels. They're not being experiencing proper nourishment. Their adrenals sometimes are fatigued. Your physical health is going to contribute to so much of your ability to be a successful trader. If you haven't worked with a homeopath to do a robust collection of blood work to really find out under the hood of you what is going on, then I strongly recommend you kickstart your journey to become a trader with that. I'm not a doctor, but I've seen client after client that I have referred them doing these numbers see a world of difference in their ability to concentrate, in their ability to sleep at night and be refreshed and ready to go. There are so many things that are low cost that you can do to improve your health that are inevitably going to completely contribute to the speed at which you have to be able to make decisions as a trader, for the amount of time and screen time and sitting at a desk that you're going to have to be committed to. Having your health is the foundation of your ability to do that successful. And I can't tell you how many traders poo-poo it and don't recognize it until they're forced to because of a health issue or because they've hit the wall in burnout. And by that point, they're already many years in. And so much of it could have been avoided if they had just done a really good deep dive on their blood work with a homeopath or a Western doctor who is willing to check beyond the basics like vitamin D and vitamin C. All of these levels can impact you in ways you can't even imagine. Talk about a high stress. Being a trader is one of the highest stress positions you could have. And if you don't make sure your body is prepared for it, it's just going to cost you and your capital. The book that I want to actually recommend for the health topic is a Celeste Headley's book called Do Nothing, which is such an interesting title, so controversial, but she talks about the importance of making sure we have time off and how often traders don't take time off because they think they have to give more screen time to themselves, especially at the beginning. But what you'll find out is that there is a cognitive load. And once you hit that wall, you are going to be operating from a compromised state. You would never trade drunk. And yet, when you are cognitively declined, you might as well be drunk. And that is something that you guys all can take care of by reading that book and learning more about just how much rest is appropriate, especially when you're a new trader. The fifth psychological tip that I want to give new traders is the importance of emotional support. Every trader that tries to do it alone is always going to take so much more time. You need to have a sounding board. Infrequently are traders in a position to have their loved ones hold the space for them. If their loved ones are not traders, it is very hard to ask for support of a partner or of kids or friends who don't understand the lingo, who don't understand this world. Your highs and your lows, you can't just talk about them willy nilly with people because they'll be like shocked at the highs and they'll be terrified at the lows. But that is part of being a trader. Be sure you create for yourself a community. I have a Discord room. I'd advocate you check that out if you're looking for a trading tribe. We address emotional intelligence issues in our trading Discord room. We don't talk the art of the trade, but there are plenty of them out there. And I really hope that you'll do your due diligence at having a tribe, having at least one other person that you can confide in, that you can share your wins with, that you can share your pains and losses with. I also do a live YouTube coaching every Wednesday, usually about 8 o'clock or so Eastern time. That is an amazing group of people. And we've just started to see people start to team up to support each other and their journey as traders. So please do yourself a solid by putting in place an emotional support collective around you. When you do this by yourself, and or you just listen to the cacophony online on X, it can feel even more lonely. There are so many amazing rooms out there that you can join. I'm going to just name a handful right now. There's Investors Underground, there's True Trader, there's Bear Bull Traders, there's J Trader, there's Humble Trader, there's Sanglucci's room. There are so many places where you can go and find community. Brian Lee has a Discord room. There are people out there who want to support you on the journey, making sure you have that support, making sure you have that encouragement is a game changer. It is going to be the hardest thing you have to take on. You are up against the smartest people in the world. You are up against machines. You are going and you're in a game that never ends, okay? So you have to prepare yourself. You are going into basically a collective where Olympians operate every day. You have to be taking care of your emotional intelligence if you want to compete with other Olympians. You can't eat a bunch of McDonald's hamburgers, never rest, never develop your body, and expect yourself to win an Ironman or become an Olympian gold medal winner. And yet, I see so many traders not even take on these five. So I'm going to recap the five I've spoke to. Comfort with failure. It's a non-negotiable. You have to get comfortable with failure. And if you haven't done that already, you better do it at least in tandem as you start to trade. You have to be comfortable with uncertainty. If you find yourself still being completely against uncertainty, then I want you to do some due diligence about what that's about. Where does it come from? You have to do some work around making sure what that relationship to money looks like. Are you a person who's coming from a poor middle class background? Are you going to be triggered by what happens to you as a trader, the highs and the lows? These are the things you have to have really clear before you start your trading account, or you could be invisibly sabotaging yourself without even realizing it. Number four is making sure your health is at the best peak level it can be. Do some kind of serious blood work with a homeopath to make sure that all of your levels, from vitamin D to your adrenals to your sense of testosterone levels, all of these things are going to impact your ability to focus and give trading 100%. I'm not a doctor, but I'm telling you, having this blood work drawn, seeing what your numbers are, is sometimes just a supplement fix away from you having so much more energy and cognitive ability. And that's what it's all about. You've got to be the best version of yourself you can be. And number five is emotional support, making sure you have a tribe, making sure you have at least one other person that you can confide in, that you can bitch to, that you can cry with, that you can celebrate with. To do this is one of the hardest things you'll ever take on. Put all these things in place as you start. Make sure you do the work on yourself so that you are going to be able to be the most neutral version of yourself as a trader. Boy, am I rooting for you. I hope this video was of value to you. And please come and check out my YouTube live coaching almost every Wednesdays about 8 o'clock or thereabouts Eastern time. I look forward to seeing you guys at one of those. Come in and say hello. Aloha for now.